Hey, it's me again. Today we will talk about literature and things in it. First, we will talk about drama. According to Webster English Dictionary, drama is a composition of verse or prose intended to portray life or character or tell a story usually involving conflicts and emotion through action, and dialogue typically designed for theatrical performance. And there is three types of drama. First is tragedy. Tragedy drama use darker themes such as disaster, pain, and death. The example of tragedy is Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. And second one is comedy. Comedy are lighter in tone than ordinary works and provide a happy conclusion. The example of comedy is Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. And the third one is melodrama. Melodrama is exaggerated drama with sensational and appeals directly to the sense of the audience. And the example of melodrama is The Heiress by Henry James. And now we'll talk about novel. Novel, or often referred as romance, is a fictional purpose story in a certain length, with depicts character, real movement, and scenes that representative in a plot or situation that is somewhat chaotic and tangled. And that's according to Nurgianto 2010. And there is several elements to create a novel. First, there's a theme. The theme is a certain view of life about what's the idea of the novel. For example, like mystery, conspiracy, biography, and so on. Second one is plot. Plot is structure motion contained of works of fiction. This motion structure move from beginning through the middle and ending, according to Jargon 2011. And the example of plot is exposition, complication, and resolution. And then there is characters. Characters are who are in the novel usually displayed more fully. For example, a character displayed with physical characteristics, social condition, behavior, and habits. For example, like Andrew Jackson, 7 US president. And then background, according to Brooks and Jargon, states that background is physical background and element of place and space in a story. Example of background is Georgia Guidestone, March 22, 1980. Point of view. Pickering and Hopper state that the point of view is a narrative method that determines the position of point of view from which the story is delivered. Example of the point of view is third person, first person, mixed, and dramatic. Then the intrinsic element of novel is autobiography, author psychology, and people, audience. And then we go to poetry. Wordsworth in Back and Loyal 1984 states that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling, expression, of emotion, and it's always concerned with daily matters of one life. And there is 6 type of poetry. First one is sonnet, short rhyming poem with 14 lines with ABAB rhymes. The example of sonnet is All We Will Be by Tiny Lewis. And second one is limerick, a 5-line witty poem with distinctive rhythm. Same like sonnet, but is slightly different. Example of limerick is A Wonderful Bird is the Pelican by Dixon Lanier Merritt. And then haiku, ancient form of poem writing, originally from Asian origin. Haiku composed of 3 lines each phrase, typically 5 syllables. Second line has 7 and the third has line repeat another 5. Example of haiku is Spring Way by Patricia L. Chisco. Then there's narrative. Narrative poem tells a story or event in a form of poem. Example of narrative is Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. And there is couplets or stanza, 2 lines of verse which rhyme and form unit alone as part of poem. Example of couplet is Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. And then there is acrostic. Acrostic poem is a poem where the one letter in each line spell out a word or phrase vertically that acts as a theme or message of the poem. For example, the acrostic poem, it's like cuddly, acrobatic, tenacious, and soft. If you take the first letter in each line, it will form cats. And now we'll talk about short story in a minute. Yeah. Short story only have one meaning, one crisis, and one effect for the reader. So story writers only want to express something sharply, according to Jacob 2001. And there is, I think it's 5. Oh, it's 7. There's 7. There's 7 interesting elements of short story. The first one is plot. Plot is where plot is the event or incident that happened in the story. In other words, the main part of the story. For example, I took Hansel and Gretel, for example, and Hansel and Gretel set in medieval Germany, and they are children of poor woodcutter, and after their parents abandoned them, Hansel and Gretel follow the trail back home. And second is characteristic. The development of characters is important to the story. The characters are the heart of the story. 2 primary characters are called protagonist and the antagonist. The example from the short story, Hansel and Gretel is the main protagonist, and the witch is the antagonist. And the third one is setting. This element refers to the place and time of the story where the action takes place. Example from the story is the Hansel and Gretel takes in medieval Germany. The fourth one is conflicts. In every story, there has to be a problem. The main character has to be challenged in some way for the story to go on. Example for the short story is Hansel and Gretel has to fight the witch in order to escape the house. And 5 is theme. This is the controlling idea or the insight that author wants the reader to understand at the end of the story. The example of the short story is the theme of the short story of Hansel and Gretel is fairy tale. Fairy tale. And the last one is point of view. The elements of the story is how the story is told. Also determines who will be the narrator of the story. Example from the short story. In this story, the writer used mixed point of view, where the reader sometimes being the narrator. And that's about it. Thank you.